Hello everyone! Welcome to Melissa's Musings. I'm Melissa Steele, real estate agent extraordinaire, and I'm going to wait for a few of you to trickle on in here because we're talking about a pretty intense topic today. Most painful memory. So we're going to get real. We're going to get down and dirty, and we're going to get emotional potentially because I'm going to be talking about the most painful moment of my life, or what's been coming up for me as the most important moment and most painful moment of my life. So when you go through a training program like Ascension Leadership Academy, you're given the opportunity to dig deep and to dive just into everything that has impacted your life, all of the experiences, all of the, things that have impacted you enough to create the impression of the way that you show up to your life. So for me, my most painful experience and the most painful thing that's ever happened to me was when my dad left my family. So I was just about to turn 16, and I remember the day like it was yesterday, where my parents had always had a very tumultuous relationship. For those of you watching, it may be similar to an experience where you maybe had with your parents, where they potentially maybe loved each other deep down inside, but maybe it was not the best option for them to be together. Maybe they would have been better human beings on their own or with other partners. So that is my experience of my parents. Growing up, the experience that I had of my parents was that they were not a great couple together. They often argued, they fought. I did a lot of escaping as a child to not be subject to that environment. And when I was, just about to turn 16, my dad chose to leave our family. And I remember the day he started moving all of his stuff out, and he had a discussion with my sister, brother, and I about spending time with each of us. And it seemed at that moment to be a very authentic conversation where he told us why he was no longer going to be with my mom and what had driven his choice to separate from her. Well, later that day, as he was moving his stuff out, even though the separation had been planned, my parents had been talking about it, they decided to mutually separate ways. My mom found a phone card in his pocket as he was moving out. And together as a family, we learned that him moving out was not a new decision, not something that he had just chosen to do recently, to better their relationship or to give them separation or whatever it was that he had just told us. He was actually leaving our family for another one. And when my mom called that phone card, the woman that he was leaving her for answered the phone. She had children of her own that he was leaving us for. And when my mom addressed it with my dad initially, she said, "Craig, what is this? What is this phone card that I just found where a woman answered and said that she's in a relationship with you and blah, blah, blah?" And he said, "Oh, that's Melissa's phone card. She was calling her boyfriend." And so he tried to, because caught in his lie, he tried to immediately shift it. "This is Melissa's fault. That's her phone card. You should talk to her." And as the weeks progressed, we realized that he had been in a relationship with this woman for years, that he had had a whole second family, that he wanted something different for his life, and it wasn't us. And as a kid, as a 16-year-old girl, that was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with. The fact that I had this internal conversation that I wasn't good enough for my dad to stay around, that I wasn't worthy of his love. He chose a different family, that my mom wasn't worthy, that us as a family we weren't good enough. And so that's a story that I lived with and I carried for a long time. It influenced and affected a ton of my decisions. I, from that moment on, liked to seek approval in a variety of ways from the men in my life that maybe didn't support me. I was always that girl in relationships with my high school boyfriends, like, "What do you need from me? What can I give to you of me to get your approval?" Because for so long I had been seeking approval from my dad and I hadn't ever received it, and then he left. And the message that I received, intentional or unintentional, from him was that I wasn't good enough. And so about 2 weeks after he left, I came down with West Nile virus. For those of you that know me, my friends call me a cockroach. I have dealt with some really interesting and gnarly diseases and things like that. And at this point in my life, I was dealing with West Nile virus. And The doctors were unsure if I would live or wake up or whether or not the 2 weeks that I spent in bed would be detrimental or beneficial. There was really no answer. By the time I got tests back, I would either have beaten West Nile or have died from it, and that's kind of where it was. And what hurt me the most about that experience, about getting West Nile virus right after my dad left, is that he didn't come to see if I was okay. He didn't even call. And I remember thinking at that time of my life how much that hurt me, and how much I felt like he didn't care, and how much that affected me from that moment on in trusting other people, in creating relationship with other people. I constantly had a chip on my shoulder, like, if I trust this person and I give them my love, how are they going to screw me back? That was my mentality. That's how I navigated through high school and college. And it seemed to be serving me well. I did really well in keeping my walls up, really fantastic in not receiving love. I did awesome in closing off myself to everyone else. And what I was unintentionally doing to myself was creating a very unlovable human being. To my ex-boyfriend, to my relationships, to my friends, because I was navigating my pathway with so much resistance to the people who actually loved me, with so many walls up to the people who trusted me and who put their, trust in me and wanted relationship from me. I was not having it, because I had this chip on my shoulder that if I opened up, and that if I loved, and that if I gave of myself to someone in the way that I had given to my dad, that I was going to get shit on, and my love would be abused, and I would end up being hurt. So for those of you that are watching, who else has felt that way in their life? It may not be going on right now. Maybe you're past it. But at some point in your life, you've felt as though you don't want to give your love to somebody because you're afraid of being hurt. If that's the case for you, put a 1 in the box. Show me that you also experience this, because us as human beings, one of the greatest things that I've been learning is that we as human beings allow ourselves, by sharing and by being authentic, is offering others the permission to know that it's okay to have these experiences, to know that our most painful experiences in life often lead to the biggest breakthroughs and the biggest realizations and the biggest opportunities. So if you at any point in your life have withheld your love from somebody else, even if you've known that they potentially are deserving of it and they haven't given you a reason not to trust them, you've held yourself back from that love. Thank you guys for sharing. So a 1, absolutely. You totally 100% understand where I'm coming from, because this shit happens. We navigate through life and we get hurt. And then we put walls up and we think to ourselves, well shit, that really felt unfortunate and crappy and upsetting and sad. And I don't want to feel that again. And so in an effort to keep myself from that future pain, I'm going to put my walls up and no one gets to love me. And that was Melissa for a really long time. That was Melissa until I met my now significant other, John. And what I realized through meeting John is that I'd put so many walls up and that I had so many conditions on my love. So needing something from someone else, or experiencing having to give of myself to other people in order to receive love. My love and the definition of love for me was extremely conditional, meaning that I needed to get something, or vice versa. Somebody needed to get something out of me to be loved. And that was life for me. And it wasn't until I met John, who truly, ultimately loved me for me, this crazy wild child that he met, and I was at my wildest when John and I met. I was a crazy person. And he loved me for being me, and what that showed me was that his love was unconditional. There were no conditions. I didn't need to hang out with him. I didn't need to give him sexual favors. I didn't need to do anything in order to receive my love. He ultimately wanted to hang out with me because I'm a super awesome human being. And he saw that in me, and he was like, dude, I want to hang out with that chick. She's pretty stellar. And I felt that love. And that love really made an impact on me, because it was one of the first times in a very long time that I felt as though his love was unconditional. And this week, as I was training 68 other human beings through their breakthroughs, I saw how many struggled with similar painful memories to mine. That their parents maybe didn't love them to the point that they wanted them to. Or that maybe their parents split up. Maybe they felt undeserving of and unworthy based on one of their parents leaving, or both of their parents leaving, or whatever it looked like. I got the opportunity to see a lot of people's shit, and to see how much it hurt them to have that parent or that significant figure in their life walk out on them, and how quickly those walls went up. how quickly and how easily it was to not love, because that was the less painful option. And it made me realize that even still I was hanging on to some resentments and to some unforgiveness and to some hatred towards my dad that I hadn't yet let go of, because it's continually a work in progress. We're never free of these things. We just get to work on them. And it happened during the level 1 training, where I was given a really unique opportunity to reflect on how my most painful memory, my dad stepping out on my life, not seeing him for almost a year after that happening, feeling really unworthy, feeling really unloved, and feeling very abandoned when I had West Nile and he didn't, to me, it didn't seem like he cared enough to call or to check in. To me, the impression and the story that I created for myself was my dad doesn't care if I die. And that's what I carried around with me. That's what I got to carry. And in level 1, as I was helping my students and my teammates and the people that I was coaching and putting my energy into, I realized that I was holding myself back from one of the biggest breakthroughs, which was realizing that that most painful memory has actually been one of the biggest assets to my accomplishment, one of the greatest things that has ever happened to me. Because from that moment on, when my dad stepped out on us and my family and me, I got to step into a leadership role in my family. I got to step into a leader for my brother and sister. I got to be there for my brother and sister and help them through their struggles. I got to be there for my mom and support her. I got to see strength from my other family, my outside family members, in the way that they supported us. I got to see firsthand the way that my strength and what I got to step into in terms of work and life and play. At that time period, I had just started college as a 16-year-old. I was a junior in high school. I just started college. I got to work. I got to fill a lot of my time. What I realize now is that I was doing a lot of avoiding. I was filling a lot of my time with things like work and school and efforts and friends to not deal with the pain that I was feeling. But at the same time, I really set myself up for a successful and really robust future, because I stepped into the leadership that I was given. I stepped into the opportunities that I was given. When my dad stepped out on us, there were certain areas of responsibility that I had to play into. So instead of carrying around the victim story that for so long I'd been carrying around, which was I was forced into growing up too young, I had to take care of my mom and my family, I had to do all these things, like have to, should have, I wish this had been different, blah, blah, blah. That victim-y story that I've been carrying around for so long was really keeping me blind to the fact that this was one of the greatest things that had ever happened to me. That by my dad walking out on us, it allowed me to grow. It allowed me to create my individuality. It allowed me to support my mom and become friends with my mom, to be an equal to her. It allowed me to support my siblings and step into almost a parental role and support them through their struggles and their pain. And so as I look back now, which is easy, hindsight's always 20/20. Those of you looking back on what your most painful experience is, maybe experiencing similar breakthroughs. But ultimately what I realized is that it is true that every breakdown leads to a breakthrough if we're willing to see that opportunity and the opportunities that lie in the breakdowns. And whether or not my dad realized it at that moment, you know, the opportunities that he had and the choices he made affected other people. And now even just having that perspective affects the way that I make my decisions. I realized based on the decision and the choice that my dad made and how it affected the rest of his family, now I'm given that opportunity every time I want to make a choice of that magnitude. If I'm ever given the opportunity of, for example, there's been very few opportunities in my life where I've been presented with maybe an opportunity to, for example, like cheat on John. Something like that happened. Maybe I've been super drunk and there's been a guy really flirty and maybe it's felt good or blah, blah. Anytime any decision has ever crossed my mind that would hurt somebody else in the capacity that I felt hurt or that I got to see my mom feel hurt, well, holy moly, has it influenced the way that I get to make those choices. I don't get to make those same mistakes. I get to break that cycle. So it also gave me the gift of the wisdom to know how decisions like that will affect other people. The pain that I was so easily and clearly able to see in my mom is a pain that I don't ever want to give another human being. So from my dad's mistakes and from his choices and the lessons that he allowed me to learn, I'm now able to see my biggest and most painful memory as one of my biggest and most fantastic opportunities and breakthroughs. And so I'm going to see what you guys are saying here because I missed a lot of comments. Thank you guys so much for joining in. I've had really fantastic an audience here the entire time, and I appreciate you giving me the time and hearing me out and listening to my most painful memory. Taylor, you going through something when you were 17, I can only imagine the pain and what you must have carried with you for so long. So I hope that you've been working through that. Absolutely. Parents are a much better team now that they're divorced. We all get along and it's great. That is something that I have been trying to facilitate in my family. My parents are not great friends yet. They get to be. They will be one day, I'm sure. But I have a vision for my family that one day when I have kids or when I have nieces and nephews, that my family, my mom and her now husband, who's my stepdad and an amazing man, and my dad and his now wife, I have a dream that we all together can enjoy holidays and beautiful family gatherings. And I get to continue working on facilitating that. It has not happened yet, and it is not close to happening, but it will. I'm really committed to it. Thank you so much also, those of you who shared the one. That's not easy. You're giving permission to other people to know that it's okay to have had these experiences, to know that it's okay to maybe have carried anger, have carried resentment, and a lot of the stress that comes along with that unworthiness conversation, all that stuff. You're allowing, by declaring that you've also been through something similar, you are allowing other people to feel the same and to give them permission to know that it's okay. So I appreciate you and thank you for putting a 1 in the box when it resonated with you. Unconditional love. Yeah, Catherine, I had West Nile. I also had swine flu. I've also been stung by a scorpion and had a crazy reaction in my leg. I've also, I'm like, my friends literally have joked that I'm the cockroach. I don't die. So I've clearly been put on this planet to do something awesome. I get to do something amazing with my life because I've been faced with a lot of experiences that in many cases take other people's lives. And not for some reason, I know why. I've been put on this planet for a purpose. And, I'm the cockroach. I don't die. I've somehow continued to thrive despite a variety of very odd diseases and plagues. Paul, my mom loved me more than anyone ever could, but my painful moment was holding her hand as she passed away on Christmas Day. No one can ever replace her, so I don't believe people when they say they love me. Yeah. And getting shot at by the Taliban. That's gnarly stuff. I feel like we get to connect more on that, Paul. I would love to talk to you more about that because I feel you. It is very easy to get into that place and that mindset that I've been hurt. I can never replace the love that I've now lost from my mom. So I'm going to put my walls up and restrict my love from anybody else. But what I've learned, and it may take a long time for you to realize this, or it may be something that you've already been thinking about, but when we do ourselves a disservice and hold our love back from other people, we're holding ourselves back from the opportunity to receive so much love. And that's one of the things that I really learned as I went through ALA. The more that I was able to let go of in terms of the pain and the resentment and all that anger that I was holding on to from when my dad left our family, I was able to, the more that I let go of that, the more I was able to receive, the more love that I was able to open up and receive. And it was really amazing. So, Paul, we get to connect more on that. I would love to talk to you more about that. So when you want to chat more and dive a little bit deeper, send me a message and we'll get some private time on the calendar. Drew, I love you. Mindy, yes, you can be a fellow roach. I love you. Erin, you guys are so supportive and so loving. I love you guys. Erin, let me just read your message here. You guys are going to make me cry. Yeah, exactly. I am going to have weird stuff happening to me. I think it's part of my story, you guys. I think the fact that I keep experiencing these weirdo diseases like swine flu and West Nile virus and being jumped in an alleyway with Aaron and not being killed at that moment, all these things leading up to my cockroach nickname, it's because I'm destined to be here and I have a fantastic purpose. So for those of you who are also fellow cockroaches who seem to just defer death like it's like you keep coming into these near-death experiences, you are meant to fulfill greatness in this life, so just know that. I love you guys. So I'm going to be signing off here now. I'll respond to all these comments one-on-one, but just know that I love you guys. Really, your love is a lot of times what drives me. Your love and the fact that I've been open to now receiving it and the feedback that I get from things like Melissa's Musings, this little bit of love that I'm able to give out to you guys is always received by me in tenfold. And You know, when you give love and when you give permission and when you give encouragement, whatever you are giving, I promise you that you will receive it tenfold. So the reason today that I came to you guys to share what my most painful memory is not to get sympathy or feeling sorry for me or anything of that nature. It's truly to give you guys the confidence to know that it's okay. Whatever experience has led up you to this point, whatever it may be, whether maybe it's abuse, maybe you were raped, maybe your most painful moment is both of your parents walking out on you and never coming back, because I've been able to coach people through that. Whatever it is that you are dealing with, it may have been your biggest crutch and your biggest victim story to a certain point, but you get to shift from that and make it your biggest asset. The thing that has driven you to do the awesomeness that you deserve to do in this world. And just know that everything truly happens for a reason. Looking back on how painful those memories are, and for instance, how awful that first Christmas was. That first Christmas, 3 months after my dad left, me, my mom, my sister, and my brother, we sat around the Christmas tree and we didn't open presents. We cried. And that's okay. And looking back on that and knowing that's okay and realizing now the benefit and the opportunity that lied within all of that discouragement and sadness and feeling unworthy, that's the beautiful thing, my friends. So if you have not yet received that breakthrough or achieved that breakthrough, we get to talk about it. You get to see yourself in your highest light, which is absolutely not carrying around that baggage. It's letting all that shit go. So we get to talk. I love you guys. Thank you so much for hearing me out and for listening to what my most painful memory is. This was not an easy musing, and I feel very, exposed, maybe? But it's the right platform. I've clearly surrounded myself with the right people because all of you are here. You are supporting me, you're encouraging me, and I love you guys. And this is ultimately the stand that I want to take for each and every one of you as you're breaking through what your most painful memories are, and as you're trying to connect the dots from that pain and from that abandonment and victim and whatever stories that you're carrying around in relation to that painful memory. I want to help you connect those dots from that pain to the glory that I now feel from that pain and from experiencing that pain and the opportunities that I get to have and the opportunities that I get to step into. So I love you guys. Thanks for listening and for watching. You are amazing. Talk to you soon.